We can stop. Danny, let me just one. Thank you. The rest? Okay. Do you want to hear to drink it? Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I'm Miguel Diaz. I am the representative of Diplomatico Rum for Middle East, Eastern Europe, and Africa. And I'm going to talk about the journey of rum. So let's keep this casual. For any question that you have, we can just talk. That will be easier. We're between friends. And I'm just going to explain how the rum has been influenced in every part of the world, and how Diplomatico takes all this influence to make our unique profile or flavor. So easy. Let's talk what is rum, where are rum produced, and how is rum categorized. What is rum? Everybody here knows that it's produced by sugarcane molasses, sugarcane honeys, and in some places in the world where sugarcane juice. That's the three main difference of rums in the world. So many of the rums in the world produce or has their sugarcane molasses or sugarcane honeys from different part of the world. The difference with Diplomatico is we produce our sugarcane honeys or molasses just in Venezuela to be able to call it rum in Venezuela. Where are rum produced? Mainly in the Ecuador, around the world, for the weather. However, there is many places who take the alcohol and age it in different places like Finland, Scotland, Ireland, and any other places. Also, in the Southeast Asia are produced many different rums, but how I was saying is mainly for the weather who provides the sugarcane production very well in this case. And how rum is categorized, as I was telling you, is categorized by the raw material. You have the sugarcane juice, the sugarcane honey, and the sugarcane molasses. So usually it's categorized in two. There is rum agricole, the French style, Navy strained, but it's the same for the sugarcane molasses. There is a British style, and the Hispanic rum that is the well-known around the world. So why it's different, or why I'm telling you this is all different between rum and everything. For example, Scotch or whiskey has the big fame to have the age and all this stuff, and you can produce it in one specific place like Scotland or Ireland. Specifically, rum you can make it everywhere. The thing is, this is what defines how you will have your rum and all the difference that you have. For example, you have cachaça, you have agricole rum, and you have Hispanic or British rum. At the end, it's the same, but with a different categorization, it produced with the same raw material. So, for example, we have Latin America is the famous place where you produce rum. Former colonies from the European countries. For example, we have the English Harbor, Montgay, and another one, Appleton, has a huge influence for the British. Pot still, Navy strained rum, very heavy. When we talk heavy rum or middle body rum or light rum, is the quantity of esters inside of the rum. So all the English influence was given for the pot still. Then we have Trois-Rivières, we have what is the other one, Martinica, and all the French style rum is made not by the sugarcane molasses, it's made by the sugarcane juice. And long fermentation. So it's a totally different flavor of rum. It's totally different, and it's made by column. And the Hispanic, that is the most famous, that is Havana Club, Brugal, Flor de Caña, El Dorado, Angostura, are produced by the Hispanic style. That is column, very heavy, but at the same time very heavy on the flavor. But it's very light in esters. So it's the most famous category of rum that we have. Now, in Venezuela, we have we have 5 distilleries. The 2 most well-known rum brands in the world is Santa Teresa and Diplomatico. So, back again with the 3 main influence for the rum. It will be the French rum, the British rum, and the Spanish rums. As I told you, the French rums are well known as agricole rum. They are produced by sugarcane juice. That is one of the most famous is Clement, St. James, the Poitou, Rivière, and the Massot. And you have mainly with single columns. That is specifically make the sugarcane juice. The sugarcane juice is before you heat it and produce the molasses to produce sugar. That is one step before to produce all the process of rum. Then you have the British one. That is the same process, mainly sugarcane molasses, but the distillation process is with the pot still. So it's completely different. It's very slow, very heavy, and Navy strain. Usually 55 or more ABV in their compositions. You usually have these islands like Jamaica, Trinidad, Guyana, English Caribbean island, and these rum are well known because they are the oldest distilleries that are producing rum nowadays. And you have the more famous, that is the Spanish rums. There is a sugarcane molasses and honeys. Only a few rum brands work right now with the sugarcane honeys. Why is this? The sugarcane honeys is just a name. Every sugarcane producers in the world has 2 names, molasses type A and molasses type B. The molasses type A is the first production of the sugarcane molasses. When they go into steam, they heat it and they burn the sugarcane juice and they produce these sugarcane honeys with a huge high content of sugar, mainly 55 to 70% of sugar in their composition. So for the sugarcane producers or the sugar producer, this is not worthy, this is not profitable because you can produce more sugar of it. So only a few brands in the world can produce rum with this. Mainly, I dare to say this is Zacapa, Diplomatico. There's many other brands, but they are not produced 100% sugarcane honeys. And the most famous is the sugarcane molasses that you can find in Venezuela, Guatemala, Cuba, Panama, and then you have thousands of brands that you can produce with that. You can have white rum, dark rum, spiced rum that are produced on the same level. What's the difference with the spiced rum? That at the end of the production, they add some flavors like cinnamon or vanilla, just to produce this spiciness on the rum, mainly to blend. For example, for Diplomatico is totally different. In case of white rum in my country, to be able to call it rum, it has to be aged minimum for 2 years. At minimum. So for us to produce this is a 6 years old white rum. What we do, we age 6 years. Now I'm going to explain how we categorize this because it's up to 6 years. We blend the rums and then we make a charcoal filter. So this is a very specific and very expensive procedure because we take with the natural carbon, take the color and give another smooth. As you can see, it's not completely white. It's clear, but it's not completely white because this takes a lot of the bouquet, a lot of the profile of the rum. So it's a aged white rum, to be able to call it rum in Venezuela. In other of these countries, I'm not telling that this is bad or worse, it's just different because you have white rum in Guatemala, you have white rum in Nicaragua, you have white rum in Cuba, but they have another specific procedure to make it maybe 6 month aging or some of them. For example, in Jamaica, it's very famous to have aged rums, but at the end, the rums in Latin America were consumed white. We didn't know about the aging or something like that. The colonizers, like the Spanish, the French, or the British, take this into barrels and took it to another place, and they realized that give a more smooth, they give a more body when you age it. The thing is, in Latin America, usually on the equator, you have 23 to 25 degrees during the night and 33 to 30 degrees during the day. so with a high humidity, mainly 90 to 95% average of humidity. So what's telling you this? That more than 50 years in the Caribbean, you cannot have rum. It will evaporate completely. For example, Diplomatico Distillery lost 7 to 9% of the year production in angel share. So it's very difficult to have a very old rum in the Caribbean. What many brands do that is not possible in Venezuela, to refill the barrels. And they have more of them have the marketing, more of them has the real speech when they say, okay, this is refilled and we have different rums here. For us, and many rums in the market don't use the years on the label as the whiskey, because for the legislation, you have to put the minimum year on of the blend in the bottle. For example, this guy has up to 12 years, but in the composition has 4 years rums in it. But we don't want to put 4 years in here being a super premium rum. So it's different. Another thing, for example, many of them, Zacapa, again, I'm not telling you that this is something bad or good, they use the number 23. Historically, many people think, okay, this is years, 23 years. No, maybe it's 23 months, it's 23 barrels. It depends on the market that you want to choose. That's what I'm telling you, that whiskey, brandy, or many other older spirits has put in our minds that the year has to be the best, more old is the best, or something like that. It's totally different category that you can have a very, very nice rum with a non- huge or a non-long-term aging. So, I'm going to explain you all of this, all the influence, all the thing that we have. So what gives the column, what gives the pot still into the rums? For example, the Spanish rums, huge columns that you can have all of this. So you can have from Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Venezuela, Guatemala, Nicaragua, and all this. You have smooth, nutty, buttery, and it's made from molasses. So it's very sweet at the same time, but it also has a huge character, usually made for blending, or people who likes a very nice spirits, and this is very nice palate, like honey, cinnamon, toffee. It's very good in that way. For the French rum, for many consumers, I'm not talking for the people in the industry, agricole rum can be strong on the palate because it has a lot of flavor in it. It can be something that for a new drinker can be strong, but at the end, if you can drink it, it's something very unique when you try it, because they have a lot of flowers, a lot of fruits, but at the same time you can taste it's very woody, but new barrels. It's totally different profile. And then we pass to the more complex rum style that we're known so far, that is the English rum, because it's made by pot still. So in pot still you have a lot of cognac and ester in it, and you have a lot of oak, a lot of mellowness, it's a lot of character that you have, and a long finish usually. So this is the three main influence. So talking about Diplomatico, Diplomatico was found in 1959 by the Canadian distillery, that is Seagrams in that time. So they produced a lot of stuff, a lot of spirits, such as Valentine, Cointreau, Four Roses Gin, and many products. So what they do when they bought the company, the master blenders transform this equipment to produce rum. So we have pot still, and we have column, but we have a very specific column, French design, that is barbette column, that I'm going to explain you next. What we give you with this, the French column, or the barbette column, gives a lot of flavor, so you can have a very heavy rum produced by a column, so it's something unique. And we have, so far that we know, we are the only distillery in the world which produce rum by a batch kettle. That is usually were produced in the 20s and the 30s to produce a very similar bourbon, but it's a Canadian whiskey. So it's a semi-continuous production. Now we transform it and we produce rum with it. So it's totally different with the profile. They give us a lot of fluid, complex, and spiced, and the flavor. For you to know, we use the 3 distillation process and we blend in a different quantity that I'm going to explain. And that's why I'm telling you that all this journey, all this influence that I'm talking to you about the Jamaica, Barbados, Martinique, or Cuba, or Venezuela, or Nicaragua are in here. And all of these guys is totally unique or singular flavor that you can taste with all the rums. For example, as I told you, our distillery is nearby to many of the previous map that I showed you when you have Angostura, you have Monguey, and all this guy. But Venezuela has a very, how can I tell you, it's a very privileged location, because all these islands protect the country against the natural disasters, and we have a different temperature. So you can have here the beginning of the Andes Cordillera, you have here the Caribbean Sea, and you have the Amazonian jungle here. And can you imagine a huge triangle? We have a microclimate when we have cold winds from the Andes Cordillera, the hot from the Caribbean, and the humidity from the jungle. So it's a perfect place for aging and producing sugar cane. So Diplomatico produce the rums with the sugar cane molasses and sugar cane honeys. So this is our distillery. This are the sugar cane fields where we make the research about the sugar cane, how we can obtain more sugar, how can the soil, it's a different way to change the flavor of this, and more sugar, and then moment of the fermentation, you have a very complex alcohol in that moment. If you have any questions so far, just let me know, please. So, Venezuela. There are 2 designations of origin in the world right now. There is the rum from Martinica and the rum from Venezuela. We have a designation of origin. So in every bottle, you have this seal, or this. It's easy to explain. To be able to call it rum in Venezuela, the government is involved, supervising that everything, all these 3 major legislation accomplished for every distillery. So what we have here, sugarcane, spirit producing sugarcane molasses or honeys, just produced in Venezuela. We cannot buy sugarcane molasses from Guatemala, from Nicaragua, or from any other place. It has to be made in Venezuela. And it has to be aged minimum for 2 years. Many people, yeah? No worries. Many people says, okay, after the 2 years you can change it, and then nothing happened. But the government, as I told you, supervised all this procedure. In our aging warehouses, you can find a barrel that has 2 years age, but you can also find a barrel that has 10 years age. So you cannot do anything. In fact, in our aging warehouses, there are 2 locks, one for the government or the supervisor, and one for the master blender. So if the master blender has to make a year survey to check how the alcohol is evolving inside of the barrel, it's another guy next to him just checking that he doesn't add anything to the barrel or change anything or the weather for the aging process. And the last but not least, the minimum ABV to be able to call it rum in Venezuela is 40. Unfortunately, you have a ceiling, we have a top that is 50%. If we have a rum that is 51% ABV or 39, we cannot call it rum in Venezuela. So we cannot produce a Navius strain. Many people ask, why Diplomatico doesn't have a Navius strain rum? We can do it, but it won't appear on the legislation of Venezuela, Ron de Venezuela DOC. So it's a very good time of the day to have a drink. So can I please? I'm just working here. Thank you. So I was telling you the 3 distillation methods. Remember all the things that I told you? Many parts of the Caribbean produced by column and other parts produced by pot still, and that's it. We have a 3rd distillation process that I mentioned. That is a French distillation process that's called batch kettle. So we have the barbette. Why the barbette is so different from the coffee distillation system? It's easy. When you have this, it's a major production. You want to have a very neutral, a very clear alcohol, high proof, and produced by series and very, very fast. What we do with the barbette? Okay. I don't know if the other guys can see me here, but the barbette in here, you have the same column, 56 plates. And here we have a condenser. So what happened? The esters are heavier than the alcohol. When you distill, all the esters remain here when you make the cuts. Usually you make the cuts over here. So to be able to have this ester, to be able to have this flavor, all the good things that we want to have on the rum, we put it here on the condenser, so they don't get tired. When we have at the top, to make the cuts, this condenser takes all the esters and all the flavors and combines it. So you can have a light alcohol with a huge profile of flavor. So it's something very different than the column production in the rest of the world. Then we have the British, the copper pot still. If you know, or as you know, in whiskey or any other rums that you produce with pot still, this guy here, the necks, the swan necks, if you change it just a little bit on the position, it will give you a totally different profile. In fact, most of the distillery in the Caribbean, the neck or the retort is not going down, it's going up to the retort. What makes the retort? We have a distillation here, the retort goes back to clean all the esters that can remain here and then goes back. Usually this is produced on the top, Diplomatico produces underneath the retort. It gives another kind of flavor. This is not the best, this is not the worst, it's just completely different production that we have with our rums. This distillation process, it's 100% handcraft. I mean, all the guys have put in the hands and everything, but for example, for the column, this is a machine that controls everything to cut the heads, the body, and the tails. Over here is just the nose and the side of the master distiller. He decides in the perfect moment of the rum, it usually has a bluish color and says, okay, it's ready. And the master blender says, okay, it's approved, and then go to aging. So it's totally different process than any other machine control or any computer control cuts. So, as I told you, this is the two major distillation systems in the world, in the rum world. Now, we have batch kettle. As I mentioned you, these were produced to Canadian whiskey. It's something like a bourbon because it gives you more smokiness, more fruity, more spices flavor on this. Why is a semi-body rum? I'm going to explain you here. You have a rectifier column, usually used for the distillation on the Caribbean, and you have this big pot, 50,000 liters. What happened here? All the cuts and everything goes here to the rectifier. We made the cuts, but at the end when we made the cuts, we put it again on this major pot. What's happened here? All the esters, all the flavor remaining on the bottom of the tank, remove again, and then you can have it. So you can have a semi-body rum. It's more complex than the barbet, and it's more fruity and it's more spice at the same time. These two guys, cheers, I'm sorry. These two guys are our master blender. Tito Cordero and Nelson Hernandez supervise all the process. Since we take the sugarcane molasses, sugarcane honeys, they are involved in all the process. Between them, there are more than 60 years of experience. Between each other, they know themselves more than their wives know them. They have been working 35 years together. So they want to work in all these blends and all the top of the maturation process of the aging in the rums to produce all our expressions. So, as I mentioned, if you don't have any other question, we have I'm too old. Mantuano. Mantuano is usually our youngest rum. In terms of blending, it's a perfect mixing rum. Why is this? Because in their composition has 60% pot still, 40% pot still and 60% between semi-heavy and batch kettle. This is an average because the real recipe has it on the master blender. But what we have here, up to 8 years. Why is this? Because usually the heavy rums are aged 8 years, the semi-heavy are aged 6 years, and the light are aged 4 years. In all the blend we took an average and said up to 8 years. At the same time, you can find 4, 6, and 8 years in the same rum. So why is the 60% light and semi-heavy rum by batch kettle? You have more dryness, you have more smokiness on the rum, and it's a profile that we want to have to the public, to the bartenders, to the market, to have a dry rum that you can mix, but at the same time you can have it sip if you like strong spirits. Now, as I mentioned, Planas, my favorite. This is 50% pot still and 50% between batch kettle and column. What we have here, as I mentioned, the color is the same that you have a little bit lighter in your glasses. The thing is, at the end of that, we finish in charcoal filter. This is a very difficult procedure because at the end, if you missed by just one more extraction in the clarification, you can miss a lot of flavor. So you have to be very accurate on the 6th filtration that you made that take the same profile for all of them. So that's we use, or we choose the charcoal to make it, and the master blender is involved of this filtration. Why it's 47 ABV? This used to be a long bottle, 40 ABV, but at the same time it was very plain. When you have it after the bottling 6 years age, when you have it here, have a lot of flavor, a lot of character. When you make the charcoal filter, give you smooth, but at the end you lose more of the flavor. So the master blender start to trying, okay, let's see 41, 43, 45, and in 47 gives the profile that we are looking for. There is a perfect white sipping rum. You can have it this sip, okay, it's 47 ABV, but it's very complex, it's very mellow, it's very nice to the palate, and at the end it change to the mixing or for the cocktails. It's very difficult because it's the underdog. There's no premium white category for rums in the world right now. You can have a lot of white rums, very, very good, but at the same time it costs the half or 3 times less than it can cost this. Why is that? Because we usually, Diplomatico aims to be producing the premium of the category. So if we have the premium mixing, we have the premium sipping, we want to have the premium white rum. That's why it's the production for this. Now we have our flagship brand that is aged up to 12 years. This is made, or usually made, with the pot still, it's sugarcane honeys. 80% of this guy is produced by sugarcane honeys. This pot still is aged 12 years, and the rest of the batch kettle is 8 years, and the barbette column is 4 years. So that's why we don't put any agent for this. Many people ask, mainly for this, why so sweet? Why don't you have it in this case? As I told you, we have a heritage major from the sugar cane, for the Seagrams in the Canadian companies, but at the end, many influence has been passing for that distillery. And one of them is champagne, brandy, or cognac. To produce champagne in the world, you have brut, demi-sec. It's the same, it's a dosage method. We use this dosage method. At the end, after the blending and everything, we produce this sweet liqueur that we produce with sugarcane honeys. Is distilled by the pot still and aged for 6 months in the white oak barrels. After this sweet liqueur is finished, the master blender added in a different quantity, in the case of the tradition range, and produce this sweet profile. We never knew that in that moment we start producing rum. We are now in 96 countries. We never knew that with that explosion or that distribution around the world, we produce the rum for the Latin American palate. And Latin American palate likes sweet things, like sweet profile. So that's why it's so easy to drink. I'm not telling you that to add any other ingredients to the rum. Unfortunately, many young brands are adding artificial flavors and says, no, it's 100% pure rum. And they're cheating on that aspect. For me, there is no problem because all the rums has a different categories, spice rum, or if you want to say, I'm adding this, but just be real and telling you. Many people ask me, you add sugar? Yes and no. I'm not adding sugar like a coffee. I'm adding an extra procedure that it calls dosage method in the case of this, because it's our own recipe. And you can check it. It's totally approved by the Venezuelan law and the spirits law, because it doesn't change anything or it doesn't harm to the human organism. And after that, we have our limited editions, that is single vintage and ambassador. These two guys are 100% pot still, 100% sugarcane honeys. What's the difference between ambassador, single vintage and ambassador? Is the single vintage, I don't know if you have drank it before, this is 2005. We produce 97, 2000, 2001, 2003, 2004, and 2005. What happened here? This guy is the father of these two. Why is that? Every year, as I mentioned, the master blender goes to the aging warehouses and check how it's evolving the alcohol inside of the barrel and how the barrel is apporting all the flavors to it. Many barrels in 1 year, in this case was 2005, the year of the distillation. They took these lots and saw there is a different evolving of these rums. So he said, okay, let's do something different. They took them apart, these barrels, and aged for 12 years and then finished 1 year in Sherry Oloroso. So this finish is something completely different. Many people say, no, it's 13 years old. No, it's 12 years, finish the aging, and then we finish in 1 year in Sherry Oloroso. That gives this complex flavor, this saltiness, and it has a minimum difference between each other. For example, if you try 2005 and 2004, maybe for you it's the same, maybe for you it's totally different. Because in 2005, maybe it was more windy or more dry, in 2005 was more rainy, so it changed the profile at the end of on the finish. Why is this more popular than Ambassador? Unfortunately, not all the production are the same. For example, 1997 was only produced 60,000 bottles. For these guys, 50,000 bottles. But in the moment that we finish, we cannot make it again. So when you finish 2005, it's finished. So it's very popular for the collectors. In fact, in Denmark, one 1997 was sold for 3,200 euro because you couldn't find it. It was just for the Venezuelan market. It was ridiculous, 32,000 euros. Ambassador is the reserved, or the mainly reserved that we have. We have 23 aging warehouses that will be 320,000 barrels. They have their contingency barrels, mainly for pot still. So the master blender check on this, 12 years age for pot still, and finished 2 years in Pedro Jimenez cask. So Pedro Jimenez cask is not easy to find, or it's not easy to have. They are very jealous with the barrel. So we can only produce only 5,000 bottles per year. So that's why it's very unique flavor. It changed everything. It tastes like tobacco leaves. It changed everything for all the flavor that you can find in a rum. So usually this is only the whole expressions for Diplomatico. We can produce rum by sugarcane honeys, we can produce rum by sugarcane juice, but at the end is all the influence that they have for the colonizers, or all the influence cultural and economically, that in the time of the colony, all these guys came to our country and gave us all of these procedures to make rum. That's why I'm just talking to you about the journey of rum, because at the end, the best rum is the one in your hand. So maybe you love Agricole, maybe you love Navius Strain, or maybe you love all. So that's the spirit that we want to share as a Diplomatico brand, that the best spirit is the one that you're sharing with your friends. So Diplomatico, thanks God, because it gives me job, has been very popular in the last year. And Diplomatico started the exportation process in 2004. So since 2004 until the days, we have again a very nice popularity. In fact, we won the #2 top trendy rum brand and #6 best-selling rum brand. For some of the geeks can be bad. You are a salt rum, you are everywhere. For some of the people says, okay, that's a very nice. For us, it's a huge proud because it's a small country in South America which produced this and has been won the popularity among all the industry, and is 100% family-owned company. We are not this huge company or enterprise that have all these workers. So, if you don't have any other questions, thank you so much for your attention. Cheers. Yes.
2 years ago, I think I found a bottle with the name Botucal.
Botucal, yes. Botucal is, as I told you, we are, oh, this is for this. I lost the presentation, sorry. We started our production or exporting project in 2004. When we got to some countries, there was some brandy called Diplomata, and mainly in Eastern Europe. So when we got to Russia, Germany, Ukraine now, Poland, they says, Aldi told us, you cannot do this because I will sue you. So before that, as I mentioned all this neighbor farm where we have here called Botucal is the farm where we grow our sugar cane and we make our agro-industrial project. Diplomatico is 100% not impact against the environment. All the waste that we produce, we turn into a fertilizer. So in this farm, we produce this. In honor to that, for these 4 countries in the world, there's Russia, Germany, Poland, and Brazil, we call it Botucal. It's the same recipe, it's the same label, the same old guy, just Diplomatico. Yeah. Any other question? Good. Thank you very much for your time.